Hi, it's Rob Moore here and welcome to the brand new Business Breakthrough Roadmap live stream. So this is probably more than a decade in the making. I've spent 5 years up until 2005 trying to run businesses, artist, pub landlord, sort of maybe being an architect one day. Didn't do very well at all of them. Got into property, then built a training business and became an entrepreneur, and the last 12 years have been much better. So I've always wanted to document the journey of a business owner or an entrepreneur from when you have an idea all the way through to selling a business. But up until the last maybe 3 or 4 years, I haven't had all the experience to be able to do that, and now I have. I've bought businesses. I've got businesses that are probably worth maybe 40 or 50 million. We've probably turned over more than 100 million pounds, or certainly more than 100 million pounds. And I've got more than one company and seen the journey from having an idea when I was in a job to starting it up and it being exciting, but then chaotic, and then there's be some breakages, and then bringing in staff and systems and that having upsides and downsides, and then the second stage of growth, and then having a more mature business like ours is now being in its 13th year, where obviously you're a bigger business, but you have other challenges like competitors coming into the market, or it's not as easy to grow 20 or 50% a year. So I'm very excited to officially be able to deliver a deeper dive live training on this brand new Business Breakthrough Roadmap. So if I could just give you 1 minute maybe of logistics and how this evening is going to run this live stream, and then we're going to get straight into it. So the first thing is, I'm happy to take any questions, and if it's okay with you, we will collate those and I'll answer as many at the end as possible, because you might ask a lot which would take us off this roadmap. If I just bring the screen up, that's what it starts looking like. So I'd love as many questions as you've got. Ask at any time. If you're streaming in YouTube, you can put them in the comments. If you're watching this live on Facebook stream, you can put it in the comments. We've got a team, they'll collate them and they'll bring them to me at the end. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we're doing a lot more on YouTube this year and putting out a lot more content, new and unique content as well. So please make sure if you're watching on YouTube, you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to take you through the 6 steps in order. I'm probably going to go over in maybe half an hour or so onto the interactive whiteboard and just sort of talk through the journey as I build it up. Other than that, I think we're pretty much good to go. So let's dive straight in. So as you can see, you have growth going up and you have time going along. Now, it might take you 5, 10, 20 or 30 years to sell your business. So time, that is variable, of course. And growth, you might go to 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 100 million, a billion. So there are, of course, some variables there. But ultimately, you should be growing further as you mature as a business. Now, stage 1 is the idea stage. So it's this stage where you want to start your business, but you haven't yet started it. It's either an idea or you want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, but as of yet you haven't taken the plunge. Now, I would say most of the population are at stage 0 or stage 1. Stage 1 to 7 or 0 to 6. I'll probably, because this model is brand new, I might tweak it slightly. I almost feel like this should be stage 0 because you haven't actually started yet. Now, I know many people who are watching, you've already started your business. Don't worry, we'll find your stage. But for those of you that haven't started, the idea stage, there are upsides and downsides of each stage, and there are key characteristics that will get you the quickest through the stage. Because the quicker you go through each stage, obviously the more money and the more experience you gain. So in the idea stage, it's about having a vision. Who do I want to be as an entrepreneur? I want freedom, working for myself. What business model do I want to be in? I want to be a property investor. I want to be, maybe running a training business. I want to be a coach, a consultant. I want a tech business, a drone business. I want to build an app. I want to be a watch dealer. What's the idea? Clearly, because there's a lot of people who would love to run a business, but they sort of flick from model to model to model to model every few months, kind of in a bit like a get-rich-quickie, shiny penny syndrome kind of way, and you've got to be careful about that. You want to have a legitimate, scalable, real business model. But you can also be in desperation mode. And both of these can be good or bad. If you've got a vision that's too grand, you need to come back to some granular reality. And sometimes a bit of desperation is good. In 2005, when I had my switch flicked to want to start my business properly, having tried for a few years doing art and architecture and pub landlording, all of which I didn't really want to do or couldn't scale, didn't want to be a business. Well, you will not believe what just happened there. This is like, there's a number 3 above a camera here, and it's just fallen off the camera but landed on the tripod back to front, and it's still a number 3. Like that, the odds of that happening are like 1,000,000,000 to 1. And that's just happened anyway. That's what I'm distracted. That would never happen. I don't know if you ever got that on camera, but that is amazing what just happened. Anyway, you can't see it, so why am I waffling? So, a bit of hunger, a bit of desperation. Like I'm not going to get a redundancy package. Or, I've been working in the same business for 30 years. I've got no pension. I've just been fired. I've got maybe a health turn and I've got to ramp up my life. For me, it was something that happened to my dad. My dad had a nervous breakdown and that really woke me up. So it's the vision of what you want your business to be clearly, and then the desperation or hunger or need or desire to do it is what gets your business started. Now, do you know exactly where that business is going to be in 10 years? No. Is it a perfect business model yet? No. Does that matter? No, because you have to start. As I've written a book on, start now, get perfect later. So each time I go through these 7 stages, obviously I'm on stage 1 at the moment, there's going to be a key stage. So this is idea. There's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's going to be the main concepts in the stage. And under here is going to be the main assets you need to develop quickly through that stage. And then the main challenge you'll have, which will hold you in a bottleneck in that stage. Okay, so in stage 0, just get my legs under the table, both the upside and the downside, the positive attribute and the challenge in this stage, it's the same thing, and that's naivety. So when you're naive to all the problems, the regulation, the competition, the issues of staff and scaling and all of this stuff when you start a business, when you're naive of that, that is good, because if you knew all the difficulties you'd face, you might not start the business. But of course, when you're naive about all of that happening, the practical reality of that, that's also bad because you don't know any of it and you've got to figure it out as you go. So again, when it comes to starting a business, I'm all up for testing. I'm up for, prolific rather than perfect. Now, of course, if you're a pilot or a surgeon, you can't start now and get perfect later. You have to have a checklist and you have to do a decade of training. So yeah, there are certain small niches where you can't test and tweak and put version 1 out and, get perfect later. But park that aside. Most entrepreneurs, most business models, and most startup enterprises, they are like that. I mean, there are many businesses, like Facebook was, where they don't even have a revenue model for ages. They just build all these users and they're trying to figure out a revenue model later. That's okay, because at least you're making progress. At least you're rolling. All right then, so let's move on now to stage 2, which is the start-up stage. So you actually have a business now. Now this could be sort of 3 or 6 months. This could be 2 to 5 years, depending on your company and is it a tech type business or is it a business that's kind of easier to have growth? Are you building something that takes years to build? Like if you're building the app for Uber, or the engine for Amazon, or you're building some IP, some tech, some drone technology, that startup phase could be years. If you're running a training business, you're a coach, you're a consultant, etc., that startup business might be 2 or 3 months until you've sold your first mastermind, or you've run your first event and sold your first batch of courses. So timeframes are variable, depends on you and your business model. Okay, so in the startup phase, you are building your MVP, your minimum viable product. Now that MVP could be a physical product, it could be IP, it could be online training, it could be modules of courses, it could be a service, it could be some kind of solution, it could be a restaurant, it could be anything. But the point of the MVP is to try and get this product or service that you have live as quickly as possible without it being too quick that it completely breaks. Now, when you run online material, let's say you're a coach or consultant, you run training, it's quite easy to get your MVP out there quickly because you write a course, you use the knowledge that you've got, you put it out there, you deliver it. If you think, you know what, this course might not be perfect, I could spend a few months to make it more perfect, launch it at a special price. So this is the example in the studio. Can you do a cutaway of the studio or not, guys? You can. So we'll just do a bit of a walk around the studio or just move it around. So this studio is quite new. This is only the 4th live stream we've ever done. So you can see we've built a proper facility. We've got the interactive whiteboard. We've got 3 cameras. We've got the editing desk where we're cutting from camera to camera. We've got various live streams. We've got the lighting. And you know what? If we're all honest, it's not perfect yet. The 3rd one went well. We didn't have any tech fails. But I'm still getting used to all the cameras. I'm still getting used to using the interactive whiteboard. Now, where am I going with this? The point of this is why the first 4 live streams I've done in the studio have been free, because I am giving you a discount on what we would normally do in the studio once it's operational. Now, if I charged you £99 for this live stream, the content is definitely worth that. But if there was a tech issue, that's going to annoy you and you may feel that that's inequitable. So I feel like I'd rather get a few live streams under my belt, test all the equipment in the studio, let the team get used to the streaming equipment because they would have learned a lot, me get used to working it, me get used to doing live streams rather than webinars and live events. And then when we're slick and we know how to run this like the back of our hands and we've got a proper checklist and a system, by the way, which is better now, like the team here behind have got me checklists and we're all clear on that, then we start charging for it. But what most people do is they wait until they've got a perfect product, months and months and years before they actually put themselves out there. And like prolific over perfect, start now, get perfect later, where possible. Because then what you do is you get feedback. You run a course, you get feedback from your clients, you improve it next time, you up the price a bit. You run another course, you get feedback from your clients, you put the price up a bit. And of course you build your confidence and you build your experience. Okay, also in the startup phase, stage 2, over here, is the sales. You've got to make some money. You've got to start selling some stuff. And what you don't want to be is a massive lag time between startup when you've got overhead, so you might have staff or you might have software and you've hopefully got to pay yourself. As you build overhead, if you don't have sales, then obviously you're burning through cash that you have to borrow. So I'm very keen for companies and entrepreneurs to sell quickly. And selling is not about price, it's about value, it's about equitability. People want something that they perceive is equal to or worth more than the price they paid. So if your product isn't perfect, but it's still operational and functional, charge a bit less, find the equitability, and then launch it. And that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur. And it's a great thing about not being a surgeon or a pilot where, you have to be perfect, otherwise someone dies. All right, great. So the key attributes required to move the quickest through stage 2 are elasticity and enthusiasm. So I would start with enthusiasm first because obviously it's the easiest one. If you don't have a passion for your startup, when things are supposed to be the most fun, but obviously you're not making the money that you want, then you're probably not doing the right thing because it's your passion that sells the vision because the company hasn't yet fulfilled its full purpose. It's a dream, it's a possibility, it's a pitch, it's not a proven track record. So it's your enthusiasm, your energy transfer that's going to get people going, do you know what? I can't see this thing that Rob's built yet, but he's got me to believe in it. Or I know Rob hasn't got a lot of track record in this business, but I believe in him. That's your enthusiasm. Also, when a business is young and it started up, you should be enthusiastic. It's a bit like a marriage when you have your honeymoon period, when it's all exciting and you haven't had the 20 years of hating each other. Because I tell you this, when you get into stage 6 and you're a mature business, the enthusiasm is much harder to keep because you've seen all the downsides, you've had all the challenges, you've probably had legal cases, you've probably had, culture shifts. So, got to be enthusiastic, and that's got to come from you. Elasticity. Speak quick. Don't forget, at any time, ask me any questions. Put them in the comments in the YouTube stream or in any of the Facebook groups you might be watching, and we're going to collate them and I'll answer them at the end. Okay, so elasticity is flexibility. It's the ability to pivot quickly. It's the ability to have an idea today, decide today, and act today. It's that stretchiness, that bendiness, that ability to go, we're trying this, that doesn't work, we'll try this, that doesn't work, we'll try this. We were doing this, but this is a better way. And I love the ability to make quick decisions in a company. But the bigger it gets, the harder that is. And we have now 80 staff, including our letting agency, and we have about 3 layers of management. And sometimes I have an idea, and it's been a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and nothing has happened. And that frustrates me. And that frustrates me because I still have the same enthusiasm that I did when I started my business. And that is a downside of having a big business. It's also a practical reality of having a bigger business. So you can make decisions and act in the same day, on the same hour. And make sure that you do that and take advantage of being able to do that. So they're the attributes you have in stage 2. Of course, what you don't have, so the darker blue is more like the challenge, the downside, and that is you don't yet have experience. You can't trade off your track record, your social proof, your recommendations, your referrals, because you're building all of this up. And that's a downside, but you know, every stage has a downside, so it doesn't mean you shouldn't start your business. It doesn't mean it's not the right business to be in. It just means that's the challenge you're going to have. Now, of course, when you get to stage 6, you have loads of experience, but you might have lost your enthusiasm and your elasticity. All right, great. Actually, can we come on to the interactive whiteboard? Is that all right? Sorry, I didn't click because I'm clicking for you to run. I clicked because I actually for a minute couldn't remember what the name of this interactive whiteboard is. So are we on this now? So this is what the whole thing looks like end to end. So obviously I'm taking you through the stages. I'm building up what the concept of each stage is. I'm building up the main concepts of the stages. I'm building up the main attributes that are your assets and then the challenges that are going to be your struggles. Here is, I mean, this is a little bit rough. I'm still going to play around with this, but this is the growth. Now, what the growth isn't, and this is important, this is very important. We'll do it in green. The growth is not that. It's not linear. It has its ups and downs. It has its peaks and troughs. That's very important to remember. And I think when people start a business, they expect it to be linear and they don't realize they're going to have a few times when growth is really big and they don't see the downside of that. So they see the money side, the upside, but they don't see the breakages. And then you're going to have other times when you're going to have troughs. Of course, business is seasonal. You know, if you run events, August and December, pretty poor for events. I'm mentoring someone who's in my 4X marketing mastermind, and she runs a business that she basically sells out Santa Clauses. So she's trying to figure out ways to make it less seasonal, so she might have 3 months of the year where she's really busy, and for the rest of the time she's not. So the growth isn't linear. As we go through, we've got bottlenecks and culture shifts. So these blue dots here are bottlenecks, and these asterisks are culture shifts. And and they're all different. They happen at different stages. Now, of course, sorry, I'm a bit OCD. I had to get rid of that. What's that red dot there? This is a general business model. You may be way longer in startup, less in chaos, longer in systems. You may be tiny bit in startup, not so long in chaos, and longer in systems because you're better at systems. You may decide to never sell. Your growth curve might be exaggerated at the start because you got into a big tech business and you surfed the crest of a wave, or you got 10 million in VC funding. So of course this is average in general, and your experience is going to be probably semi-unique. Like you might find that this is 80% accurate for you. If you're a real process-driven person, your systems is probably going to come early. If you're like the most chaotic, disruptive, excitable, wild entrepreneur, you may never really even have a systemized business. You may, if you have an exit strategy, i.e. you want to get in the business to sell it, then your second stage of scale might be smaller because you've always got the sale in mind. So I'm just saying it's specific but also general for you. But I guess you kind of got that anyway. All right, can we go back to the... Great. Okay, so do you know what? I'm going to talk through the stages, then I'll go back to the interactive whiteboard and talk about the journey of the growth curve, because I think that's going to be a good way to do it. This is the first time in detail I've talked through this roadmap. So hopefully new, exciting content for you, and hopefully just in case I'm a little bit quirky with how I deliver it. All right, great. So we'll come back to that. So we'll move to stage 3 now. So stage 3 is the chaos stage. It's actually the growth stage, but there are, I find, at least 2 main growth stages of a company, and this is growth stage number 1. So you started up, you've got your product live, you've built it, you've protected it if it's IP, you've done a few MVP sales of it, you're getting a bit of a reputation now, you're known in the industry, you're getting some referrals, you're building up some money to spend in marketing. It's time to grow, it's time to go big, it's time to sell, make sales and scale. And this is exciting, of course. And this is where you get your first big hit of growth in terms of revenue. But there is also breakage. So there are things, you sell too much and systems break. You have staff that come in and they're like, well, what is this place? It's just like a madhouse. I'm leaving. And that can happen in a week or a month or a year. We've certainly had that a lot when we've had no structure, no org chart, no HR department, no processes. It's just there's your desk, there's your computer, now sell. And that's really exciting and it's a real buzz and you can feel that energy when you go into quite a young company. But it is chaos, hence the word chaos. This is pre-systemization. Now, remember I said, if you are a very systemized person, you might have already systemized a bit more of your business as you go. Good on you. So you may have a shorter point in the chaos. Or you might have systemized your business, but then you hire a lot of people and your sales start going big and then your systems break. So that's at a different point to you. I am not really by nature a systemized person. I had to learn that. So, we've been, if anything, we've been under-systemized and over-systemized. Okay, great. So in this stage, what are your assets? The concepts which, will push you through this stage the most. That is your disruptive nature. Disruptive in the market, disrupting in your competition, growing, making sales, everyone talking about you. You don't have all the fear that the mature companies have in your space. You don't have all the regulation, the critics. So you just go out there and you're just, you're pure and you are who you are and you take a bit of market share. You're dynamic, you're still fast like you are in the startup stage. You're still pretty lean. You're still very elastic. But the downside is also that you are disruptive in that as an entrepreneur, you're disruptive to your staff. There are no systems, no processes, things break, things are chaotic. No one knows really what they're supposed to do. They're just supposed to do. And I personally really enjoyed this stage, but it did get to the point where everyone else around me hated it. And if I'm honest, I like creating chaos. And I sometimes like to go into our orderly, systemized way of doing things and sort of mess it up a little. And I kind of enjoy that because that's in my nature. And obviously that is one of my brands. So I never really want to too much lose that. Whereas, if you are the Civil Aviation Authority, where lives are at stake and there is high regulation, then you want to get out of this stage as quickly as possible into the systemized system stage, which is stage 4. Okay, so I'm going to come to the growth curve and summarize it all, I think, after I've done all the 7 stages. I think that'd be a good way to deliver it. Okay then, so stage 4 is the system stage. Now, hopefully, by the way, you watching this will make you second guess the fact that you don't want to wait till stage 4 before you start systemizing. You want to start systemizing in the startup stage so that the systemization stage is the smallest amount of time. The smallest amount of time that is, the quicker you jump to the next stage, and the next stage has more revenue. So other than educational, what would be the purpose of you understanding this entrepreneur's journey, this business breakthrough roadmap? Well, to know the stages in advance before they happen, so you can plan for them before they happen, so you don't get the downsides of them as much. That would be one reason. Number two reason would be to shorten the distance of each stage so that you get quicker income, because the longer each stage is, the slower the income is, because your biggest income is actually in stage 5. So the quicker you get there, the better. But you can't get there without going through all the stages, because otherwise it's just all chaos and everything breaks. Okay, so stage 4 then is the systems stage. So the key concepts in stage 4 are process and consistency. You've been chaotic, inconsistent. There's been some customer service issues. There's been some HR issues. There's been some product issues, some feedback issues, some reputation issues. By the way, the chaos stage kind of has 2 stages. Can I come back to the interactive whiteboard? Needed a shorter name for this. There's almost 2 stages in the chaos stage. There's like I'm doing it with the wrong side. There's the fun stage of chaos, sales, growth, enthusiasm, dynamism, and then there's the shit side of chaos, and that is breakage, and that is a total lack of system, reputational issues, products breaking, like some of your staff leaving or competitors nicking them, or a culture shift as you get big but really like unstructured. So yes, it almost breaks into 2. So if you can preempt that before it happens, then you'll have more fun and you'll go quicker into the system stage. Cool. So back to the screen. Okay then, so in stage 4, you have the process, which is the orderly way of doing things. I love one-page checklists for my team, because a one-page checklist is easy for someone to perform a function. And the team behind have done a great job in giving me a couple of one-page checklists and printouts of my slides, and a one-page checklist here of things I need to know. So this is more of a process now. You want your manuals and documents and your training videos, and your HR and health and safety manuals and the operations manual for your business, and the way to perform a task and a function, whether it's, I don't know, a communication email out to your database, or it's a way that you speak to your clients on the phone, or an experience someone has with your company end to end in a flow chart. This is process. Then consistency is where, because you're not chaotic anymore, you get a more consistent customer experience. And if you think about McDonald's, they're highly processed and systemized. You get the consistent burger, the consistent chips at the same temperature, at the same amount of time. I'm not saying you like them or not, that's not the point, but you get a very consistent experience in every outlet in every country in the world. And if you go to a restaurant, what you don't want is 3 really nice meals and 1 dodgy one, because you're probably not going to risk going back there. You want a consistent experience, and this is what systems gives you. So you have more structure, you have an organizational chart, you have layers of management, you have an A to Z process, a 1 to 10 step-by-step system of doing things, an order, a sequence, more official, more clear, but the downside is you can become a soulless entity. Oh, this company's culture has gone. There's no fun anymore in this company because it's just systems and checklists. You can't even talk to Rob anymore. You've got to go through 2 managers. And I have to fill in these bloody one-page reports for everything. The company has lost its soul. It's dead. And we did go through a culture shock where, as we put more systems in, people felt like that because we were so fun but disruptive and shooting from the hip and reactive. So you're more proactive and less reactive in the system stage. So, that's going to happen. as you introduce this. Now, if you introduce this earlier, this is less of a shock, because as people come in at the very startup stage, you're planning to be more organized. So that's why planning for these stages in advance just reduces the time it takes. If you're at maximum chaos here, then the system stage is going to take the longest. And this is where people are going to say the company has completely changed. It's not the company I used to work for when we started. Now, as you go from 0 staff to 5, 5 to 15, 15 to maybe 50, 50 to 80 or 100, there are natural culture shifts. It can't be a family business when there's 80, unless you've got a lot of kids and a lot of family, like Peterborough. They tend to have a lot of kids here in Peterborough. So it's pretty normal to go through these culture changes and shifts. I will talk to you about those in a moment. All right, so that is stage 4. Don't forget, you can ping any questions so far that you've got. We're going to take them at the end. Also, just let me know if you're finding this useful content so far. Put some comment in one of the threads saying, yeah, it's good, or give me any feedback if you think that I can improve on it. I'm always looking to improve. I know in my heart that this works and is accurate and is good content for you, because I've gone through it, I've lived it, I've experienced it. I've got mentors who are billionaires, mentors who are 100 millionaires. So it's also the collated experience of those. I've probably read 3,000 books on business and personal development and entrepreneurship. I have mostly my life now is business and entrepreneurship, because it's also my passion. I've got more than one company. I've got partners and business owners and people I'm in masterminds with who I've been able to observe this. So just saying that, I feel like I've got some experience to bring, and hopefully that's coming out and you're enjoying it. All right, great. So stage 5 then is the scale stage. So this is where you're no longer a startup anymore. So you're not like a mom and pop operation, or just a hacker in a little dark bedroom anymore. You are a legitimate business, a real business with proven track record and history. You've gone through all the chaos and the breakage. You've built a fairly cohesive culture. You've got a fairly systemized business which can deal with high volume of maybe, you can scale up with your staff. You can have a lot more sales and leads coming into your business. You could just have a greater capacity. And so you're ready to go big. You're ready to jump. And this is the second growth stage. So the first growth stage is the chaos stage. Hopefully this stage should be a bit more ordered. You're ready for that next big launch. So, if you're a massive tech, if you're Uber, and you've gone through the disruptive stage of trying to get into some of the cities, and your app had a load of glitches for ages, but now you've got an awesome app that works really well, and you're in many towns and cities across the world. Now it's time for a massive growth phase. You might go on a massive capital raise and raise $1 billion or $5 billion or $10 billion, or you might, bring in a load of VC money so you can scale up quickly. Or you might just launch version 2 or version 3, or you just might go a lot bigger because you're ready and things aren't going to break. So this is this stage. And this stage happened for us 3 years ago, I would say. So maybe this was 5 years ago, and this was 3. We had our biggest year 3 years ago. Actually, the first year we went through scale, we had our biggest year in one of our training businesses, which is £19 million in turnover and book business. So it's not linear, because you might go big one year, might not go as big the next year, big another year. Now you might have a 2-year plan here to show proven trajectory. Can we go back to the whiteboard again? So if you plan to sell, what you might do here at stage 5 is look to have a fairly consistent growth plan. Why? Because you want to sell in stage 7, and you actually want to bypass most of stage 6, which is mature business legacy. So you want to show some consistent growth, so that the firm that's coming in to buy, or the company that's coming in to take over your business, has got 2 or 3 years of history to see a fairly consistent growth curve. If you're selling your business, this is not what they want to see. They don't want to see that, because that's inconsistency and that could scare them. They want to see some fairly consistent, almost sort of pre-planned, controlled growth. Also, they want to see that there's room to grow more. So if you're selling, you might have a 2 or 3 year window here where you're looking to make it fairly consistent. Now, if you're not planning to sell, what you might want to do is just go all out big, trying to grow as much as you can. And then you might find, you struggle for a bit as things start to break again, and then go all out again. So, this is going to be a different rate of growth depending on what your outcome is or your exit is. So for us, stage 5, for progressive property, it was kind of like whack. And we've actually never peaked beyond 2016, I think. But this year projected is about 20, so we should go there. But we have no plans to sell, but that wouldn't look that great. If we wanted to sell, if they saw 19 million 3 years ago, 15 million 2 years ago, 16 million 1 year ago, that doesn't look as good as 15, 16, 17, even though that's less money in total. Now, of course, some of this is all fine to talk about. Sometimes you can't control it. And also, you take the money that you can get. And if someone says to me, hey, Rob, do you want to halve your growth this year just so you can have a future plan? No, I just want to grow. So, sometimes you make the sales that you can make. I'll go back to the camera one. Sometimes, you have a great year because there's a window of opportunity. That year was the year when e-commerce got huge, and we was running and selling a lot of Amazon and e-commerce courses. And now it's matured as a marketplace. So there's less room for us to grow because there's less business to be done, because that was a window of opportunity. Okay, so in stage 5, the scale stage, you are getting market share, starting to dominate your market. You're all over the place. And therefore you're multiplying. You're multiplying your staff, you're multiplying your outlets, you're multiplying your reach. But your margin starts to really thin, probably for the first time. So when you systemize things, you should be able to sweat out extra margin. You can find efficiencies. You can reduce, you can have economies of scale. You can reduce wastage. This is part of what you do in stage 4 as a process of systemization. In stage 5, you're like, with growth, it's all about growth, it's all about growth. Pump money into marketing, pump money into advertising. Fast, don't worry about checking the accounts or whatever, just grow, grow, grow. And we had that same thing in 2016 when we were growing the most. And I was just like, let's hire everyone and let's pump as much money into marketing as we possibly can. And there were some breakages when that happened, which we'll get to soon. Okay, so that is stage 5. My back. Cheers, thanks for tuning in. I hope you're having a good time. Remember, ping any questions in any of the threads below, and our team will collate them. Had Tam brought in some, or was that just a note to you? She brought in some questions. All right, cool. I still will take them at the end. So this was build 7:30 to 9:30. We're going to be good. We're definitely not going to go over that time. I might have a decent amount of time at the end to answer any questions. Okay, stage 6 then is the legacy stage. So this is the stage where you've had some epic growth, you've scaled up, you're a big business now, or you're a medium-sized business. You're no longer a small business, you're a serious business. Like you're getting flirted with and by VCs, and people are saying you should sell your business, you should float your business. The competitors look up to you. You have market share. You have a guaranteed amount of revenue each year in the millions from all the ongoing business. You have a big reputation. For example, insurance is a big mature industry. And that can be great because, because it's not as chaotic and you don't have to try as hard, and you're getting a certain amount of repeat business. But now you have to start thinking about the future, because I know some people, by the way, and let's go back to the interactive whiteboard. I'm going to have to give it a name, like Dave or something. So if we get rid of all this. I know some people whose their growth, it's not quite like this, but it's just kind of like that. And this could take them 25 years. It's quite common. You know, like if you think of a brick and mortar business, a restaurant business, a more traditional business, like the old watchmaker who's been, repairing watches for that long. And so to a certain degree, they were a mature business a lot earlier. And you can be a mature business, so that's maturation here, but still be a small business. For me, if anyone ever says my business is mature, I want it to be very big, not very old. So there's mature in the big sense, the scale, the market share, and then there's the mature in the age sense. But what you don't want to do is, I'll go back to the camera one. What you don't want to do is be a mature business in the age sense and have no legacy, i.e. the business isn't big enough to sell, the business isn't big enough to sustain you in your retirement, and you need to think about the legacy of your business soon. Now, a mentor of mine, Dr. John DeMartini, has a 1,000-year vision. And he says, the reason I have a 1,000-year vision is because I want to leave a legacy. And if it's any shorter than that, it's not a real legacy. I want to be remembered in 1,000 years. Now, I'm not saying you think that long ahead. Of course, there's a lot of, manufacturers and companies in the east of the world that have 25-year, 30-year business plans, like Toyota, for example. And I think that's smart to think, at least just for a small amount of time, to plan. Am I planning to hand over to my children? Am I planning to sell? Am I planning to retire? Am I planning to sell shares in my business? Am I planning to have management take over or buy me out? It's smart to think about that, which will be at stage 7. But this this legacy stage, where you can see the S's at the top, which sort of summarize what they are. This essentially is when you become mature and you think about the future of the business properly. What's the next generation? What happens beyond my retirement, beyond my life, beyond my desire to run the business? Because, by the way, some people go into business 3-5 years, they don't want to run it anymore. If you had a legacy plan, then you could have sold it 3 or 5 years' time. Whereas if you get 3 or 5 years in, you're like, I've had enough, this business has ground me down. There's nothing you can do with it. You've just got to wind it up. So stage 7 will tell you what your next generation or the legacy of your business becomes. But in this stage, it's all about sustainability and succession planning. So you're thinking about, okay, we're a mature business. How do we make it last another 50 years, another 100 years? How do we make it last beyond my life? What's the succession plan? I'm sure as soon as Apple found out that Steve Jobs became ill, they needed to have a succession plan. Barcelona are already making plans for when Lionel Messi retires. He's obviously been one of their best players for many years, and he's probably got 2, maybe 3, maybe longer seasons in him. But Barcelona, mark my words, they'll be making a succession plan for that. Of course, Man United did when Alex Ferguson left, and that didn't quite work out. But if the more strategic you are with your succession planning, the less of a shock it is. A really good friend of mine who's in one of my business masterminds, he told us this raw today, but his son got stabbed in a nightclub on New Year's Eve, and it was touch and go whether he was going to make it. He had a major operation. It was a good few weeks in hospital, and thankfully he pulled through. And one of the things we discussed was this chap, the dad who's of the son, said, I've got a business that doesn't need me. I've got staff who can run it and who are great. And me and my wife were able to sit at my son's side the whole time. You want to be able to make those decisions and do those things and retire on your own terms or sell on your own terms or take time off on your own terms. And you won't if it's not systemized, it's not gone through that second stage of scale where you've got enough revenue, which you can hopefully stash and save in dividends and retain profits. But also if you haven't made a plan. All right, great. I'm a bit warm, so I'm just going to Take my jacket off if that's all right. All right, so the downside of sort of coming out of the scales stage and into the legacy stage is you're now in a very mature market. It's quite saturated. Like imagine if you wanted to set up an insurance company now or a global fast food restaurant chain. Good luck with that, because that is a really saturated market with loads of big players that have been doing it for decades or even centuries. And that is what happens when you get to this stage. And so obviously, if you're in it, then you have an advantage over those that are starting out. But in it, disruption, innovation, creative marketing, really big growth and high margin is really hard. It's generally fairly consistent, fairly slow, somewhat boring growth. Because you're mature, you now have a lot to lose. You can't be audacious or risky with your marketing or your campaigns because you have, a lot of reputation to protect, a lot of clients, a lot to lose. You have a big overhead, and so you probably take less risks. Now, I kind of went through this between the age of 39 and 40. So we'd gone through some decent growth the 3 or 4 years preceding my 40th birthday. I'd kind of, can I go back to the whiteboard? Around about this stage here, so from kind of here to here, I took it pretty easy. I semi-retired a good couple of times. This was when we had 19, 15, 16. And our business had a bigger foothold in the industry. It became the biggest property training company in the industry by quite a way. But I got quite comfortable. I would definitely not say complacent because that's not really in my nature, but I definitely got comfortable. And then sort of over the last, say, 12 to 24 months, quite a lot of competitors have come into the space. Competitors that I've trained quite a lot of them. And that's, in a small way, disrupted us. And that was good for me because that took me out of this sort of comfort zone and really woke me up again. To maybe want to bring a bit of stage 5 into stage 6 and not rest on my laurels. Mark and I had a conversation probably 10 days ago of a company that would like to help us raise shares. It would like to help us. They reckon our company's worth, I don't know, 20 to 50 million pounds would be the really low end and the really high end. I obviously think it's nearer the high end. And we've had a few offers before, and we kind of flirted with them and not really been interested. But this is more of a serious outfit that's looking to, talk this through with us. So, my brain's in like, do I want to scale more? Do I want to sell 40% of my training business and, raise 40% of 20 to 50 million quid? My son is now 8, my daughter is now 4. Do I want, maybe, this sort of stage for my son or daughter to take over, which means that we're going to be in the scale and sustain stage for like 15 years. Mark's about to have a child. That's common knowledge now, so I can say that. That's 6 weeks away. Or do I want this stage to be 18 months? And then look at raising some capital in the business. And these are the decisions that I'm thinking about. And of course, me being having my 40th birthday had some level of impact and urgency on those thoughts. Now, by the way, that's also, can we move the cameras? That's also great for me because I love variety. So the great thing about businesses going through all these stages is variety. When you have the idea, you have like limitless potential, but complete naivety. When you have stage 6, you have massive knowledge, experience, but maybe you're, like a little bit tired, lethargic. You maybe crave something new or different because it's not become maybe as exciting as it could. which is why for me, flirting with should I go and continue to scale, or should I look at raising some money to, and selling shares in the company, or starting another company so I can go back to stage 2 in a new company. This is why entrepreneurs start a lot of businesses. They go through stage 4 and 5 and they're like, man, that's not why I want to be an entrepreneur. This is boring, systemizing. No. I love the idea stage, the growth stage. I love putting the team together. So then they start another business. They become the serial entrepreneur because they love these stages. Cool. Okay, so you can see the growth curve in stage 6 is much slower. And we found that. We peaked. Now, hopefully we haven't peaked because we're going to beat 16's target. I know we are this year, and we're definitely on track for that. We've had a brilliant January, maybe our best January ever. So that's awesome. But we definitely slowed off the last 2 years. We're still good, we're still 15 plus, which, none of our competitors in our space get near. But it's like, also you have to work harder and harder and push harder and harder, and your overhead goes up and up and up, but for an eroding margin, and our margins were always high. And then, one of these years, our margin was like, less than 10%. And we're like, why are we doing all this work for less than 10% of 15 million quid? When there's 2 of us, and then there's wives, and then there's kids, and, and everything else. But of course, it's not just about the money, but, you want to make sure your margin isn't eroding. Because some would argue, it's better to have 10% profit on 10 million than it's better to have 20% profit on 10 million than 10% profit on 20 million, i.e. the same amount of profit but double the size, unless you're going for market share, in which case it's better to have less profit and more turnover. But how much work do you want to have to put you and your team through? So sometimes this is why the system stage can be good, because it can get your margins back into place. But then when you scale, your margins can reduce, or actually they can go wild at the start, but then they can reduce. And then you become more mature and you sort of bring back some of the processes and systems, or the mindset that created the processes and systems, into stage 6, planning for the future. You probably have a structural reorganization. You might hire in a chairman. Your role might change. You may no longer be the MD or the CEO of the company. Uber, their CEO stepped down because it was agreed that he was the perfect person to take them to where they've got, but then the wrong person to take them into a more mature market. That number 2's falling off, just so you know, on the second camera. In fact, I think every single one bar number 1 has fallen off. Yeah.
That's right. Keep it.
Any questions you've got, ping them in. Remember, on the comments. It's fallen down completely now. Okay, and then stage 7 is the exit stage. Idea, startup, chaos, system, scale, legacy, exit. So exit is where one day, now you might not ever exit, so that might not ever be a consideration, but one day you will, and that's when you die, or that's when you retire. So death and retirement are still an exit. Hopefully it's a planned exit and not an unplanned exit. So it's either retirement, death, sale, management buyout, which is MBO, or IPO, which is initial public offering, which is when you sell shares in the company. Now, for many years I've said I have no plans to do that. I still don't really have a desire to do that. But if I got made the right offer, I might sell 40% of one of my companies, as long as I've got freedom to do other things that I want, because I've still got majority share, still got majority control, which is really important to me. But I'm 40 now, I'm not 25, and as you grow and your values change and your desires change. The point of this is planning it all in advance. So what you want to do and the exit that you want to have and the choice that you want to make, you can make on your own terms and not be forced by a recession, or having to end up winding the company up. So in stage 7, if you sell or IPO or you get a buyout or you retire, you're going to have some nice cash. You're going to hopefully get a nice lump of money as the upside capital. Lumps, not drip feeds of dividends and little bit of salary and, big lumps of money. But what you might have, and I've seen this many times, my friend Neville Wright, he said that the worst day of his life was when he sold kiddie care for 75 million. Not what you'd expect, because he lost his purpose. And, I think as that sale progressed and as he saw that company by kind of being run badly He felt sort of like, he knew how, it was like a family, and he knew how to run that business, and they'd run it down. What do you do when you've been working in a company your whole life, and it's your values, and you live and breathe that business, and that makes you feel important, then you sell it. Yeah, you got a lump of money, but then what do you do? So often the downside is people feel lost, they're not contributing anymore, they don't feel important, and that is one of the downsides of the exit stage. Okay, right. So let's go over to the, why is my back hurting so much today? Interactive whiteboard. Dave. All right, Dave. So, at the idea stage, the first main culture shift is, I'm now working for myself. When you work for someone else, they tell you what to do, when to do. You know when you start work, you know when you finish work, you know what your staff benefits package is, you know if there's a problem you can speak to HR, you do what your manager tells you, you know your career path, and that, by the way, has a lot of upsides. Entrepreneurs tend not to want to be shackled by that, but that has a lot of upsides, and a lot of people choose that route. Now, those that desire to be an entrepreneur want freedom, autonomy, choice, want to do what they want when they want. They get this massive, slap in the face a few months in where they're like, yeah, okay, I can do what I want when I want, except I'm skint. And I've got no one keeping me accountable. And I'm working 12 hours a day, but I'm going around in circles. I've got no accountability. I've got no team or people to bounce ideas off, and I'm a bit lost. So that's your first culture shock or shift. Hopefully, you get over that. And you'll then tend to hire staff. And then the next one usually comes here. And now it might be 3 staff, it might be 10 staff. I'm going to put 5 staff. So at this point, you now are responsible for more than one person, i.e. not just you. There's people coming to you, Rob, how do I do this job? Rob, how do I do that job? Rob's really busy. Oh, I interrupt Rob. Oh, Rob never gets to do his own work because he's getting interrupted all the time. I'm employing you to do a job, go and do a job, but I don't know how to do the job. You've got to think about, they're like, oh, can we have some staff benefits? What's the holiday? Do we get sick pay? And there's all of this stuff. Where's the HR manual? What? And then you have a staff member leave, and your staff contracts aren't very good. Or you maybe get someone saying, hey, look, I was wrongfully or unfairly dismissed. And all this stuff starts to become a reality. And then you have another culture shift where basically you've got to now think about your staff, not you. You've got to become more strategic and less operational. You've got to set them off on their tasks, write their job descriptions, get them leveraged and enthused and thinking about their career path. And that's quite a thing. The next one is often about 15 staff, or a certain size, where you've now got at least one layer of management. So what happens here is you've got an MD or an operations manager, and then you've got 3 managers, and then you've got the rest of the team, and you bring this all in. And the team start to say, oh, you can't speak to Rob anymore, he's too freaking important. He's locked himself in, he's got a glassed office now, and he doesn't really talk to you anymore. He doesn't come down the pub, he won't come down the gym with you. He's hired in this bloody MD, she's just firing everyone, and she doesn't get the culture, and she's just coming in and putting all this red tape and all these processes and systems in place. I hate it, that's not why I started here. And there is a culture change. Now, when this happened, we had 5 staff pretty much leave on the same day and set up a competing company. So 1/3 of the workforce just left. But we knew that we had to do this. We had a strategic plan that we wanted to grow. We knew we wanted to grow. We knew that it couldn't go on anymore like this because it was too chaotic. And the person we brought in had really high-level management experience. She was strong. She had management experience of managing sales teams. She'd worked at a big corporation, and we knew she had what it took. We hoped, and we turned out to be right, and she turned out to be great. And she came in, and she helped us develop the culture and grow the culture. Now that's of course all forgotten, and some of those people that left, Mark and I have reconnected with, and we're sort of kind of good friends with now, and water's under the bridge, and they're doing their own thing. So that's like 1, 2, so culture shift 1, culture shift 2, culture shift 3. Here, you're maybe at 50 people. So you're at culture shift 4 there. What happens here is you now need an HR department. You've got 3 or 4 levels of management. You have one-page checklist for everything. Managers here manage themselves. Managers here now have to have one-to-ones with all their staff. So, you know, you start hearing your manager say things like that, I'm in bloody meetings all day. All I do all day is meetings, one-to-ones, looking after all my team. At this stage, and this was funny, but not funny, but like I walk into my office on a weekly basis and I don't know the names of some of my staff because they're coming in all the time and they're new and they're growing because we're at what now, give or take, 80. And that's in-house, we've probably got a similar amount of outsourcers, etc. So it becomes less personal. Now, our brand values are progressive, innovative, personal. We try and keep personal in our company. We make it as personal as possible. But it can't be as personal as when it was 5. When it was 5, I answered every email, I replied to every Facebook message, didn't get that many. Now I have 4 full-time people who manage all my inboxes. Now I still reply a lot myself, and I also have an outsourcer who does a lot of it and replies on like as if he's me because I've taught him to be that way and he's learned how to talk like me. But it's just a different game. Now we have an HR department, so when people have got grievances or people have got career progression discussions or they want salary raises, this happens here. Now, if you focus on your values and you want to still be an entrepreneurial, disruptive, fun, spirited, dynamic place to be, you can still keep these values, but you have to do it with scale. You have to be more processed. You have to do, you know, you like here, someone hasn't worked for you for a year or even 2 years, you can say, oh, you're leaving, it didn't work. You can get pissed off and have fallout with a staff member and nothing's really going to happen. You do it here, you'll be in a tribunal. Or you'll get taken to, you know, you'll be in an employment tribunal. Here, your reputation is important. Here, you can pretty much say and do what you want and get away with it. Here, you'll be on all the forums and you know, you'll have all these critics and haters and you'll be in the media. So, you know, you have to be a little bit more controlled with the atmosphere. We have a vision meeting every year for the whole team, a quarterly vision meeting once a quarter for the whole team, checking into the vision that we do every year. Every staff member has a one-to-one with their manager once a month. I have a board meeting once a month. I have a one-to-one with my MD and a one-to-one with my PA. I have 3 micro catch-ups with my PA. And so there's a lot of meetings that go on now. Okay. The next culture shift here at stage 5 is where the staff get to know of your plans to sell, your plans to retire. Hopefully, you know, you don't have a Steve Jobs incident where you pass away. And this is where you have to evolve the culture for the sale. Now, this final culture shift, stage 6, is the actual sale. Now, at stage 6, at the actual sale, the new company can come in and engulf the culture of the new company, and the old culture disappears and a lot of staff leave and they don't like it, and that merger or handover can be very messy and disruptive. So that needs to have a narrative and a plan so that the existing staff are hopefully integrated well. At stage 5, it's just where everyone's what's Rob going to do? He's got to 40 years old. Is he going to retire again, or is he going to grow the business again? Oh, I've heard that people are fishing around selling shares in Progressive. Is he going to do that? What's going to happen? You know, and so that's when the noise starts, the gossip starts, the planning starts, and everyone starts to think of different things. They start to think of the future of the business. They start to think of the future of their own career. Sometimes here you can lose senior members of staff. They've gone with you the whole journey, but now this wobbles them because what about their future and their legacy, because they may not want this potential change. So they're the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main culture shifts. Now they can be messy, or you can have a fairly smooth transition through all of those. Now the key, let me just go back to the desk. How are we doing for time? We're doing good. As you're going through stage 1 to stage 7, as you're going through culture shift changes 1 to 6, the key for the smoothest transition is obviously your education on how they work. Now, most of these I either had to figure out myself because things were breaking, or mentors, being in masterminds, following top influencers who had businesses of 10 million, 100 million, a billion, 5 billion, 10 billion, studying everything that they put out there, their podcasts, their books, watching all the documentaries on them. But like the more planned you are and the more you communicate what you're doing, this is important. So like if you're bringing in another layer of management, or if you're thinking about the next stage of the business and, maybe flirting with raising money or selling, whatever, the best thing to do is be open and honest about it and communicate it early so you control the narrative rather than the gossip and the fear and the worry, because most people don't like change. Rather than that controlling it, you constantly communicating. And as you get through maybe stages, probably stage four and beyond, your role now really is more leadership than anything tactical or operational. So you are there to communicate regularly, to keep restating the micro sound bites, invest for freedom, choice and profit. We are progressive, we are innovative, we are personal, and like sharing the vision in a very short statement. Our vision is to help as many people on the globe become financially educated. And then as you go through these challenges and difficulties, you talk through it. You're always honest about the challenges as well as the upsides. Don't bullshit your team. And that essentially becomes your role. Great. Okay, let's go back to the Dave. Okay, so we've got two more things then. Actually, we've got two more things on the roadmap, and then we've got loads of questions, hopefully. And if not, fine, no worries. So the growth curve. Let's do that next. So often what happens is your revenue goes down before it goes up, because here you've racked up your credit cards to invest in education and training and go on courses to get accredited. Here you're 6 months in, you've got overhead, but you've not made any money. So you always get a dip or an investment lag. So the dip is your time, your expenses, the investment in your education, setting up the product itself without selling enough to recoup that cost yet. So don't be too down on yourself when you get that investment lag. Then you have a little bit of a spike here. And that spike is when you do your first launch, sell your first round of products, and holy shit, you've got some money in the bank. That's nice, you're happy, and that feels good. You might even take a drawing or pay yourself. Then it tends to level off because now you're sort of just chugging along. You've done your sort of big launch, you've got it all there and live. And then you normally get another hit as you either have a second launch or you just start to generally organically build up sales. And that takes you to the end-ish of the startup phase. Now, of course, when I say end, these lines can be very blurred here, because it might not be yesterday you're in startup and today you're in chaos. Obviously this is a visual representation, but the transition between each stage could be weeks, months, it could even be years. All right, great. So, there you go, that's easier. When you go into chaos stage, you often have a little bit of a dip when you go into each stage, not always, but you're now thinking about more sales. You have your first couple of little breakages, maybe a few staff complaints, a few refunds, the first time anyone publicly has ever sort of, had any criticism of your product or your business. And then, of course, the money starts to ramp because you're in growth. Ramp, and then you often have a bit of a dip. And that dip is when you have your first major breakage, and it's gonna happen. So as you can see, the curve that I'm drawing is a little bit more aggressive and this is a little bit more flowing. I think the one I'm drawing is probably a little bit more realistic. So yeah, at this point you have your first main break and your first big breakage. then you sort of figure it out and it levels off, and then income starts to go up again. And hopefully it'll be higher than this last peak here, so it might be more up there. Then you start systemizing. Now, at the peak of growth, things start to break again. You're at maximum growth, you haven't got enough staff, and just like your systems and processes are non-existent. And then you go, right, I've got to get systemized. Now you have this time lag where you're trying to sell and grow your business and systemize and train your staff on the new culture and on the new systems and still sell, and you're doing that all at once. So you get this like either a dip or just a plateau. And then once things are systemized, the culture's good, you've moved beyond it and things are working better and not breaking anymore, then the revenue can start to move up again until you plan for scale. And then hopefully you get a big spike when you scale up. At some point you're going to have a dip or a level off where you had an amazing year and you couldn't quite reach that year again, or it's just unsustainable how much you grow, or you get another break because you scale too fast. You get a massive legal case against you, which has happened to, say, for example, Uber. You recover from that, hopefully, and then you have good growth again. And then when you get into the legacy stage, you're a mature business now, and the growth is it's likely to be less volatile because you've got a lot of backwind behind you of reputation and loads of customers and repeat business and residual income. So hopefully it's more predictable, but it's much slower. Then you take your eye off the ball a bit when you're looking to sell, because you're not focused on growth anymore. You're kind of, am I at the point where I want to exit? So you lose your motivation, so your team does a bit, you get a bit bored, a bit tired, a bit mature, a bit lazy, a bit all of those things. And then you're flirting with the idea of selling, or I'm doing an IPO, so you're getting yourself re-educated, you're going and having loads of different meetings, you're not really working in the place. And then you decide to exit somehow, and then at that point, you've got to keep selling and prepare for a sale. And that can be, you can sometimes decline, or you can grow but not much. And then of course, when you make your sale, bosh, you get your massive payday. So that is probably an accurate timeline of how the growth happens. All right, great. So then finally for the roadmap, and then I've got something hopefully exciting for you to mention before we go into the questions. And that is the investment lag is the first sort of bottleneck. Discussed that already. These bottlenecks are often where businesses break, fail, go bust, or entrepreneurs give up. The second sort of breakage point is at the bottom of your first major breakage in the chaos stage. So it's the breakage floor, where at your kind of lowest point in your growth stage of chaos, where things seem the worst. You might have some clients that have pulled together and maybe going legal on you, or you did your biggest launch ever and your system just collapsed and it's not working properly, or your merchant provider pulled from you and you can't take money at your biggest event or whatever. There was a force majeure. 3, the systems change over here. So at this point here, stage three of this is, I'm going to call this, I'll call it bottleneck now, or maybe breakage. I need to give that a name. Obviously I've got the culture shifts on the asterisk. I need to give that a name. I'll come up with that. So the systems changeover is when you're designing the systems, implementing the systems, training the staff on the systems, and you're still trying to run a bloody business and make some money when all that is going on. And you get a dip in income, or maybe you get fatigue in the business, or overwork, or stress, or overwhelm. Okay, the fourth one is when your growth is too fast. It could come anywhere sort of here to here, where you just went so fast that you had another massive breakage. Now, of course, you might be lucky to have those happen once each. These all might happen 5 times each, or it might be a 6-month period or a 2-month period. The 5th one is the management handover. So that's when you're sort of planning the next stage of exit or legacy. And so there can be a mess planning, handing over to management and getting them trained up, or bringing in some big hitting chairmen, and that chairman or MDs or CEOs, or having a shift where a big person in the company leaves and That can change the culture a bit, and there can be some integration and succession challenges there. And then, of course, preparing for the sale. That's obviously a distraction, which hopefully is a big payoff in the future. I know plenty of people have spent a year or two preparing for sale. Their business has really struggled, and then they've not sold the business. And they've just cost them, like themselves, maybe tens of millions in those 2 years and taken their eye off the ball. All right, cool. So I've got loads of questions here. So if you've got any more, please do put them in the comments box below, and we will have them handed over to me before we finish. But before that, though, I don't know if you've heard, I have actually announced this now, so the cat might be out of the bag, but I have a brand new event called the Business Breakthrough Summit. And essentially, the Business Breakthrough Summit, the 2-day event, this is part of the model of the event. So should you choose to spend a bit of time with me, and by the way, I'm going to give you a minimum viable product version 1 price, and you'll know now why I do this, having shared this model with you. But the Business Breakthrough Summit is a 2-day summit in my training suite just next door, which is one of the reasons why I can give you a massive discount. We've got 23, 24th Feb, 9th, 10th March, 4th, 5th of May. We've got very limited places on Feb and March, by the way. I've got the numbers here, but I'll tell you those in a minute. But on the Business Breakthrough Summit, I'm going to give you a massive discount on that, like about 95%, and I'll tell you why in a minute, so stay with me. But on the, and by the way, I'm doing all the questions at the end as well, so don't go anywhere. But on the Business Breakthrough Summit, I'm going to teach you how to break through the ceiling in the business that you're in. Now, when I say I'm going to be doing quite a lot of the content on these 2 days, and many of you know I've retired from training for many of my companies, and we have, we do 800 events a year, and I'm normally only involved in about 20 or 30 of them. But I'm kind of coming out of event retirement to do this. Now, I'm also getting in my social media expert, I'm getting in my Amazon arbitrage expert, I've got a host for the event, so I've got some other great speakers as well. I've got someone who's going to bring sort of the emotional and personal development and mindset side of business, and he's brilliant. But I'm going to be there a lot. I'm going to do a keynote speech as well on the end of day 1. So break through your business ceilings. You probably want to go bigger, go more, or go easier. You either want to be more systemized or make more money or work less hours or whatever. You're at a ceiling, and we're going to help you break through that. We're going to teach you multiple streams of leads and multiple streams of income. I think it's vital. Multiple streams of income is not a luxury anymore. It's a necessity. So I'm going to do there'll probably be 2 2-hour keynotes on free and low-cost marketing in different areas, one on social media, one maybe on more traditional media. You're going to get specific sales strategies and specific digital marketing strategies for maximizing income in the new age that we're in. I'm gobsmacked how many businesses are not leveraging social media enough or digital marketing. Most of that is low cost and free other than paid ads, and most people aren't doing anything with it. I'm going to teach you to build a vast business and personal brand, because people often ask me, should I build a personal brand or a business brand? How do I integrate them all? Obviously, I've done pretty well at building a personal brand, as well as having my companies, Progressive Property Unlimited Success. Steve Jobs built 3 amazing brands, which I'm sort of aspiring to. Personal brand, business brand, product brand. And I'm going to teach you how to do all of those and maximize your reach, maximize your revenue, leverage free and low-cost social media, how to create online income, how to create e-commerce income, the brand new arbitrage strategy, how to become the go-to influencer in your space, be perceived as the go-to person, and how to build assets in your business, not just you, because if you're your asset, then you don't have a strong business. But books, podcasts, your media empire, marketing strategies, I'm going to teach you how to build them as assets. Just need a bit of water. This works for any business I've ever seen. I've never seen a business that these strategies don't work for. Hey, look, I'm always prepared to be proved wrong. And if there's even the Santa's business, we were talking about Summer Santa. We were talking about Santa supports, going and seeing kids in, schools and things like that. So you can even reinvent a December business to summer and to other times of the year, and like going and doing children's pantos and things like that. So I'm pretty creative, and I can help you bust through your business ceilings and start and scale any business. So you've got the full mindset, skill set, strategies and tactics for entrepreneurs, and empire builders. So whether you want a bit of part-time, full-time, or big time, I like that, part-time, full-time, or big time, because Empire Builder is kind of what I want to do and build a massive business. We can help you go big in 2019. So here's the discount, and that is it's just going to be £19 plus VAT. Why? Because it's the first ever brand new event of its kind in my training suite that I own, therefore I don't have a high overhead. And because it's a brand new event, I'll be filming it, and I can use the filming assets to sell in the future. So a bit like this live stream, I'll have this asset forever now of this event that I've done online for you. I've given it for you for free. Have we had any ticket?
No, very smooth.
Don't speak too soon. I'm starting to speak too fast. We've had no tech issues because it's the 4th time, but we may have had. So I'm going to charge for this in the future. And I always have an MVP price escalation model. So it's just going to be £19 plus VAT. It's not one of these every 90 minutes you get pitched, every 90 minutes you get pitched, every 90 minutes you get pitched, no content, 90-minute pitch. Of course, there are a couple of next opportunities, including a mastermind, a brand new mastermind. But it's not like that. There's going to be a heck of a lot of content. Now, by the way, if you come for the 2 days, you get to the end of it and you say, Rob, I learned nothing, and you genuinely didn't get any value, I'll pay you 19 quid back, I'll pay your accommodation, I'll pay your travel, and I'll pay your food. Can't say fairer than that. There's zero risk. But imagine what the upside could be if you break through your business barriers. There's also a bonus, which is my 12-part course that I created called Business Income Builder. So this is really for startups. If you're at the scale-up stage, it'll be useful, but you probably don't need it as much. It's a 12-part online video course that has sold. I've sold hundreds of those for 97 plus VAT, but I'm going to give you that for free just for getting a standard, or as we call it, gold ticket, which is the £19 plus VAT ticket for the Business Breakthrough Summit. So, reiterate, 24th of Feb, we have 11 places left on that. That's only in a couple of weeks. But for the fast action takers, you can get in. 9th and 10th of March, we've got 18 places left. 4th and 5th of May, 32 places left. So 32, 42, 50, 61. How many did we have on this live stream at peak across all channels? Do you know?
About 500.
Okay, so across all channels, more than 500 people. And we've got 61 places. So literally 85% of you, is that right? 60 out of, yeah. About 85% of you are not going to be able to get in. So when I give you the link, you're going to need to go. I'll give you the link in a minute. So in fact, I'll give you the link now. It's bit.ly/capital B, capital S, gold. bit.ly/BBS gold. Can we just go to the interactive whiteboard and I'll write it on it. How do you move the page over? How do I get, there you go, look. So it's bit.ly, yeah? bit.ly/BBS gold. Now, there are platinum tickets. Are they called platinum or premium? Sorry. Premium. There are premium tickets where you get a couple of extra bonuses and you get a dinner with me. So if you want the premium, don't go to that link. If you want the gold level, go to that link now. bit.ly/BBS gold in capital letters. Are you still on the whiteboard?
We've got it on screen, yeah.
Okay, great. So you got the link on the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh, you with your so all the next slides, the link just stays on the screen.
Yeah.
That's clever. That's clever shit. You guys are awesome. Yeah. Okay. So on the Business Income Builder, the defining your vision module, define your product and audience, marketing fundamentals, finding and securing your clients, systemizing your business, deep dive into systemization, managing your business, scaling your business, long-term growth and legacy, a conclusion, wrap-up and next steps, and then there's a bonus module on accounts and finance. So that's that online program you get for free just when you have the gold ticket, bit.ly/BBS gold in capital letters. There's a big printed workbook and guide of it, and also onboarding and developing a company culture as another bonus module. So you get all of that. You get the 2-day event. You get all the content that I shared with you, starting and scaling your business, free and low-cost marketing, digital marketing, e-commerce, the mindset, skill set, strategies and tactics of being a fully fledged business owner, all of that for £19 plus VAT. But premium ticket includes the gold ticket, plus you get VIP seating at the front, you get the fast entry and you can beat the queues. You get a 6-week online business coaching program that I delivered and then recorded, and you get dinner with me on one of the evenings. We've actually got the Saturday evening and the Sunday evening, I believe, has just been opened up. So I'll give you the 2 links. So when you add all that in, that's 2492, but dinner with me is obviously worth tens of thousands of pounds. There'll be about 12 of us at the dinner. So it's not a one-to-one dinner, just saying. But yeah, there'll be about 12 of us on the Saturday evening and 12 of us on the Sunday evening. And that ticket is just £67 plus that. So for the premium ticket, there's none left for Feb, there's none left for March, there's only May. And the link is bit.ly/premium ticket. So let me put the link on. Can we go to the whiteboard? So they're the 2 links. And this one is 19 plus that. And this one is 67 plus that. And let me just tell you how many we had left at the start of this live. We had 11 left for Feb, 23, 24th of Feb. We had 18 left for March, 9th and 10th, and 32 left for May. And that's it. It's very highly likely it will completely sell out by the end of this live stream. All right, so I'm going to put both of the details and links up on the screen, and I'm going to leave them there and you make your choice. I like to think you have 2 choices, gold or premium, rather than not at all. If you can't make any of the dates, then you need to reschedule your calendar. If you're getting married on one of those dates, just cancel it. But no, if you can't make any of the dates, please make a comment in the thread to say I'd like to do one, but I can't make any of the dates. We have none others planned, by the way, for the rest of the year, but we'll at least let you know if we do run one in the summer or the winter. We don't plan to, but you know, like, why not let us know if you can't make the dates? Other than that, I can't think of any other reason you wouldn't come. I don't know if there's any questions about the event itself. I don't know if you want to go and ask. Let's take them first. So ask Tam and Beth. Sometimes when a lot of people go onto the page quite quickly, it takes a long time to load. So just refresh. Sometimes when put their card details in, people put their card details in, there's an issue with that. So just let us know that you want a ticket if you're having some tech issues. Sometimes people have accidentally paid twice. Just put, say, hey, Rob, I'm in, but there may be some issue. If you don't have a card to hand and you want to book a place, but you don't have a method of payment right now, just say, hey, Rob, I want to get booked on, and hopefully we can book your place and then we'll sort the money out with you tomorrow. But yeah, there's a lot of people that follow me that haven't been to any of my events yet, or have been listening to my podcast for a few weeks or months, or follow me on LinkedIn and not met me yet and not got a chance to experience what our events are like. That's one of the reasons why I dropped the price significantly of the events. And I will charge these prices for these in the future. I definitely will. And I will sell online versions at much more than this. But also, we own our own training academy. Now, most companies, when they run events, they have to hire expensive hotels and send their staff there for ages. There's massive overhead. But Mark and I own that building. We've owned it for 7 years. Got not a very low mortgage on it. We rent it to Progressive Property. So I can afford to give you really big discounts, which maybe other people can't. These discounts aren't just made up. And it's not one of those freestyle events where there's no content. There'll be a lot of content. Cool. So I think we're mostly done. I'll just leave that up. In fact, I'll just leave the links up. There you go. So if there are any questions on the threads for me about the events, I'll take that. I don't know when the tickets will be sold out because I haven't got any access to any information. I would suggest you go and do it now if you haven't done it. And I definitely will turn this offer, when we end this live stream, when I've done some of the questions. So it's either when it sells out or when we finish this live stream. Okay, right. So I'm going to do them in the order that I got them. I'm now on to the questions. How do you manage the emotions, disappointment, personality clash between partners, competitors, blatantly spying via customers? Okay, so the first thing is to say disappointment, normal. Personality clashes in your team, normal. Competitors ripping you off, normal. I'll add some more. Some reputational issues, normal. Defamation of envious, jealous people, normal. Staff leaving and setting up in competition and taking other staff with them, normal. I've had some of my staff sleep with other members of staff, an engaged one with a disengaged one, and then they've both left, normal. And these are just the practical realities of business. Now, of course, you try and minimize them, and I'm not saying they should happen a lot, and Rob says it's normal, because if it happens a lot, then you're making some mistakes. But how do you deal emotionally with that? Well, number one, you separate yourself from the business. And for many years, if anyone said anything about my business, it was like they were piercing my heart. And of course, if they said anything good about my company, it was like, yeah, that's me. And now my company and me have a separate identity. And of course, I'm proud of my companies. But if someone critiques or defames or has a challenge or leaves my company, I don't take it personally, because it's not about me, it's about them. So when you have all of these emotions, I think I'm going to give you 3 things that I think will really help you. I could talk about this for a whole hour, by the way. So one is, it's never, ever about you. It's always about them, i.e., any critic, any defamation, any staff leaving or whatever, they may blame you, they may say things about you, but ultimately how they feel is on them. So if you know that and you realize that that's how they are, and I can obviously take feedback to improve, because maybe you made some mistakes, but they own who they are and what they say and what they do. The next thing I always look at in terms of all of these challenges that have been raised is, it's a gift, what can I learn? It's a gift, what can I learn? So I've got some kind of disappointment for something. Okay, that's a gift. What can I learn? Well, how can I learn about disappointment? Maybe I had unrealistic expectations. Maybe I was trying to have someone else in my team live up to my expectations, and they can't, because they should only live up to theirs, because that's who they are. Maybe I set ridiculous goals and set myself up for failure. Maybe I need to manage my emotions better, because actually there's nothing really to be disappointed about. Maybe I'm living too much in the future and the past and not in the present. What can I learn? This is a gift. What can I learn? Anything challenging that happens, this is a gift. What can I learn? And you'll turn the negative emotions into positive ones. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so this is from Ariane, which is the same name as my daughter. Different spelling, but same name, so that's lovely. How do you sell your services at a discount rate in the startup stage without devaluing it? Well, at the startup stage, no one knows what its destination price will be. No one really knows what it's worth if it's a new product. Now, if it's a product that's a bit of a commodity, i.e., there's lots of other products in the market that are of similar price, you say, hey, this is a brand new launch, and because of that, we're giving you a special discount. And you have the angle of the brand new. So let's say all face creams were 30 quid, and this one was 15 quid, and initially you might think, bloody hell, I'm not going to buy a cheap face cream. But then you might say, hey, promotional offer, it's a brand new product. The technology and the anti-aging and everything is amazing, but we want to get more out to the market. It's brand new, and so we're having a special promotion. So that's how you reduce a price and make a discount to increase the volume and increase the speed of sales without devaluing it. Also, I often use the price escalation model. So the face cream is 15 quid now on launch. It's going to be 30 quid after our launch, or when we've sold out this batch. And if its real value is 30 quid, you're telling your audience that it's going to go up to 30 quid, and that's its real value, but they can get it for 15 quid today, which creates a contrast frame between 30 quid and 15 quid, i.e. a 50% discount. They don't devalue it because they know what it's really worth, and that's got to be believable. And therefore, there's the contrast frame, i.e. I've got a bargain, I've got to buy it now. Okay, great. Okay, what's the best way to increase your prices of your product if you launch too low without losing customers? And this is from Adrian. Thank you, Adrian. The first thing is hold the price for your existing customers and tell them, hey, we're going to have a price rise. Sorry, am I smacking the table? You don't like that, do you, for your audio? So I can use an example here. I'm mentoring someone who has got over 150 properties, and he has like 7 figures in rent roll, and I'm putting my head in my hands for a reason here. And he makes hundreds of thousands a year in net profit, and he runs a property millionaire mastermind. And do you know what he charges his clients for his property millionaire mastermind, considering he's got, millions of pounds worth of rent roll and hundreds of thousands of profit and hundreds of properties? He charges each client £10. £10. Might as well have just pulled his pants down and danced in front of everyone. £10. And like we were having a chat, and he's like, well, but I've got 25 people on it. I said, no worries. Here's what you do. You say to them, you've had a blooming bargain here, and you all know it. And they go, oh, yeah, we know it. This is unsustainable, and I want to scale this up, and I want to bring some really quality people into this mastermind for you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you founder membership, 100 quid today. I know it's not 10 quid, 100 quid, but here are the benefits of the founder membership. I'll lock that in for you, and I will never charge you more. But then I'm going out to the market, and I'm charging $2,000, $5,000, or whatever it's really worth. So you go to your existing customers, you say, hey, I'm putting the prices up, and you give them a chance to lock in, or you give them a chance to rebuy at the, so it depends it depends what your product is. I shouldn't talk and put a jacket on at the same time. So is it a product that they can buy regularly, or is it a one-off product? So if it's a product they can buy regularly, go to them and say, hey, we're having a price rise. Would you like to rebuy at the discount price because the prices are going up? Or hold their price and charge a higher amount for the new customers. Now, by the way, when you do that, your existing customers love you because they actually have verifiable proof that they got a bargain. So that's how you do it. You protect and lock in your existing customers, or you let your existing customers know of the price rise and give them a chance to buy it at the cheaper price, and then you sell at the more expensive price. Cool. Carl. Actually, I'm going to do them in order, but I'll pick off some quick ones. Does it matter what stage you are starting at? Well, you start at stage 0. How would you start? Not at stage 0. Do you mean, does it matter what stage you're at now? No, the stage you're at now is the stage you're at now, and hopefully you know with the mistakes you made in the previous stage and the lessons that you can carry forward into the future stages. You don't want to start, you can't start in any other stage other than 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, because you have to have a good idea and a good business model, and then you have to build a minimum viable product and get it out there. You can't start at any other stage. Unless I misunderstood the question, James, by all means, repost that question. Okay, Carl has asked 2. I'm going to answer one of Carl's. What stage of business growth did you find the most challenging, and why? Probably stage 4, which is the second phase of growth. It was the most exciting and challenging, because if I'm honest, no, stage 4 is systems. Why don't I think before I speak? Either stage 4 systems or stage 5 growth 2. So they were the 2 stages I think I found the most challenging. Systems, because I'm not a systems person, and I did a lot of study which was kind of against my natural personality, because I knew we needed it and I wanted to learn it. And I did a lot of courses and read a lot of books and got mentors, and just did a lot of deep dive education, mentorship, masterminds in a sort of 2 or 3 year period to get really systemized. But I'm naturally not like that. And in the system stage, you're still trying to grow your business. You're still coming out of chaos. You want to sell stuff. You're hiring. You're writing new systems, because I was writing a lot of them myself. You're training staff on your new systems yourself. Your staff are there, but not really able to do their job because they're learning their systems. And you've got all those things going on at once, like a chaotic dovetail that's not quite fitting. And so that was, a challenging stage. Like every stage has its own challenges, but that you asked me what was the most challenging. How did we get out of it? the best. I stopped doing all the systems and processes and myself, and I outsourced the outsourcing and systemized the systemizing. So my MD became responsible, and then our team became operational in doing the systems. So then I could bugger off and semi-retire, or I could go and start another business and go back to stage 1 and 2, which are my favourite stages. Or so someone better than me could do it. And then we went into growth stage 2. So our best year, 19 million in that one training business. It was awesome. It was exciting. But man, so much shit broke that year. So much shit just broke everywhere. Partnerships broke, staff broke, but it was exciting, and we have really fond memories of that year, even though it was probably like our most relentless year. So hopefully that helps Carl with that. Tom is next. Rob, will this form part of your next book? The stages are extremely useful. So thank you, Tom. Who knows? I've not got many specific plans. If you think about this roadmap, this is like stage 1 of the roadmap if the roadmap were to go through 6 stages. This is the minimum viable product. It's new. I've done a lot of work before, so it's not like fag packet new or napkin new, but it's new. I know a couple of tweaks I can make to it already based on what we've done. I know a couple of tweaks to delivering the training based on doing it so far. If I'm going to go on all the streams and the feeds afterwards, and if I've got a lot of rave reviews, I'm going to consider scaling up, doing more training. It might make its own book. If everyone's like, well, thanks, Rob, but yeah, whatever, then I won't. And so I'm always just testing content out into the marketplace, testing products, see if they like it, and I will grow if there's the demand. So Tom, I know I've got one person that likes it, and I'm really grateful. I'm really enjoying this, and I know it's of value because I feel it in myself of what I've done, and I feel with Volition this is some of the best content I've delivered in a while. But ultimately you're the decider of that. But it definitely could become its own book, where a book is literally that. That's the model and framework of the book, definitely. Okay, this is Dave, not our screen Dave, but Dave Hume on Facebook. We worked on stage 4 before 3, now ready to scale. Do you think a different order will have a negative impact? I like there to be growth, systemization, growth, as opposed to growth, systemization. You could have systemization, growth, but if you systemize too early, you miss out on your first stage of growth. So I think it would be good if you can grow, which creates chaos, then systemize, which creates order, and then grow again. So the second phase of growth can be much bigger. And so therefore, I do think a different order may have a negative impact. Now, you might be able to sell at stage 4. If you've systemized your business nicely, you might be able to sell it before you go second round of growth and you could become more mature. So, the order can rearrange a bit. It just can't, something can come earlier, but I don't think it can swap. But, that's something else for me to think about in my training of this to see if there are any exceptions to that. Caroline, is growth really that important? If you get a level you are happy and great at, do you always have to go big? No, you don't. I mean, your growth is your choice, but inflation will erode your growth at 3 to 5% every year. So if you don't grow for 10 years, you've actually decayed by about 25 to 30%. In fact, with compounding, 35%. So you've got that to consider. Also, your overheads are going to go up. So your turnover and profit's got to go up to have those. Your staff are going to want career progression. So it depends. I've just realised I do this on my chair. That's another bad habit. So it depends how long, Caroline. I quite admire and respect people who are not as aggressive in growth as I am, because they're more patient and maybe growth isn't everything. You could maybe do the 7 stages, Caroline, but just take a lot longer and do it in a more controlled way that the growth is right for you. But with inflation and your staff's desire to grow and progress their career and increasing overhead and increased supplier costs, yes, you do need to grow. You just don't need to do massive aggressive growth. Connor, who's just a lovely guy, and he has his own very unique way of communication. When you first started expanding and hiring staff, did you need a huge nappy? That must be an Irishism for Connor. finding it difficult to let go of control. So I'm going to assume by what you meant by nappy is, did you have meltdowns? Did you micromanage them? Did you find it really hard to let go? Did you think that they weren't to your exacting standards? All of that, Connor. But, I know what you do, Connor, because we know each other very well. And, that Richard Mille doesn't necessarily make all of his own watches anymore. F.P. Journe doesn't necessarily make all of his own watches anymore. And, of course, companies like Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe, the only, I think, two big family-run ones. Obviously, the founders of the companies have long passed away. So if you passed away, Connor, which obviously, God forbid, doesn't happen for at least 50 years, because I want to be your friend for that long. If you passed away, would Stannage watches carry on? Not unless you had someone that you trained up. So you've got to balance training them, letting them make their own watches, letting them make their own mistakes, and then, letting them go. Now, the way you could do this, Connor, is one, obviously, get them shadowing you and watching what you do. Two, anything that you do, try and systemize it. So when you're doing what you're doing, and I know you do more than just build watches, because obviously you find designs, you design cases, and you've got the internal parts that you build. But when you do all that, video record it all and talk through it while you're doing it, as if you had your son there who was excited about taking over the business one day and you really wanted to. If you feel like your staff members like that, you're not maybe going to be such a petulant, diva about it. You've got to be patient. They have to be allowed to make mistakes, because they're obviously have been doing it as long as you. So I would say every time you're working on a watch, try and record it, talk through it when you can, so that you build training systems, give them some experiments to do, some failures to happen, and then one day when they're ready, let them design their own watch and launch it as a line. And you'll know brands have different lines, and then that elevates you. And then when people want to buy a Stannage complication, that's going to be 50 grand, whereas at the moment, a Stannage most expensive watch might only be 3 grand. So you increase your value, you increase your heritage, you increase your credibility and your ability to charge fees when others are working for you making your watches. So I have speakers and trainers and masterminders and coaches at Progressive Property and Unlimited Success, and they run 770 to 780 of the 800 training days I run a year. And they're all great, and some of them command good fees. But I command the highest fees because I trained them. So I couldn't command 25 and 50 grand for my 6 or year month mentoring, masterminding in property or business, if I hadn't had other trainers and developed other trainers. So hopefully that makes sense. Ultimately, all the emotions you're going to go through, Connor, which I listed out, every entrepreneur's gone through that wants to scale. It's normal. And why do you have that? Because you love your brand and because you don't want that brand ruined by someone who makes a mistake on your watch. But if you don't let go, you will not grow. And I'm getting the sense. I'm excited to see your growth, Connor, because I know when we first met, you were kind of not, you just wanted to, make your watches and do your thing. And I reckon you're really embracing this growth and you want to grow big or bigger. And that's exciting. And actually, you'll have a much better brand, a bigger brand when you go big. Now, I also know, because we've spoken a lot, that you have like kings and presidents and people like that you make a watch for. So you should have, if you want to grow, that is, other members in your team, master watchmakers, that you give them an ascension plan as well. Watchmaker status, master status, elite status, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, like the Chinese doing the martial arts. So when you get commissions or watch builds for 3 or 5 grand, they'll build the watch. For 20 grand, 50 grand, you'll build the watch. Something to think about. Cool. And I think that's a great one to finish on because that's all the questions. Can I bring a guest on the ticket? I don't know. Buy a ticket. Contact our team. We'll confirm. I actually don't know. How long is each day? Kind of 9 to 5:30 each day for 2 days. Are there selfie opportunities with yourself? Is that a plant? Oh, my team put that in there to make me feel good. Yes, there are. I actually am doing. I don't want to sound like Tom Cruise. I'm definitely not at his level, but you know, like when I do events, I do end up doing 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 of them, 100 of them, signing books and all that. I love doing all that because it's something that's relatively new in my life. I'm not like an actor that's been famous for 20 years. I'll hang around and chat with you. If you get the premium ticket, we'll go out for dinner. So yeah, I'm up for all of that. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. So you've got what? Maybe 3 minutes to go to bit.ly/BBS Gold for the gold ticket. bit.ly/premium ticket for the VIP ticket. Let me summarize to you what you get on each one. So you get this business breakthrough summit. It's about starting and scaling your business, growing through all the stages, creating multiple streams of leads and income, and leveraging multiple sources of marketing, mostly digital, low cost and free, with some e-commerce and online and dominating social media and becoming an influencer and a brand. That, I guess, in 60 words, is what the event is about. You can see the dates, you can see the places left, you can see the bonuses for each ticket. So I'm tuning out. If you leave the screen on until what, 25 past? I normally make my watch a bit fast. Yeah, till 25 past, so that's 3 minutes. I've really enjoyed it. We didn't have any tech glitches. Second time in a row. So, wow, it's a wrap. Thank you very much, everyone. Remember, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. I'd look forward to meeting you personally if you're going to join us at one of those events. Thank you for following my work. Thank you for joining on the live streams and replying to my videos and watching my videos and sharing my work and reading my books and listening to my podcasts and attending my courses. I love my job. It's not a job to me. I love this. This is not work. This is what I get to do. My driver's taking me to my publishers tomorrow. I've got a meeting with the publishers about my next book, and they've brought the big dog, like basically the head of the whole publishing company, and this publishing company is the second biggest publishing company in the world. They're coming into the meeting with me because I guess they see my books now as kind of big time for them. I get to do that for a job. So when you run your own business, you do what you love what you do. You know, you get to express yourself through your podcast, your books, your social media. There's not much better than that, you know, as a profession. I'm so grateful I get to do what I do, and I'm so grateful to have you in the community. You know, and those of you that I know personally, you know, we have lots of engagement on social media, and those that I don't, reach out, tag me in, ask me a question. I'm here to help. I'm always around. So thanks for tuning in. Remember, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. So don't risk not buying one of those tickets. Go now before we get to 25 past. 24 past, you've got 1 minute. And I'm off. Cheers.